a playlist original.
All right, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Back to the Blockbuster with your host Gaius and Jackson. It's a very packed news episode.
So much news, as we've aptly titled the episode. This is we make it up for a week off after we were doing some anniversary episodes, and this is great because it makes for a lot of chatter about the industry news, which is something that we love to do.
Yeah, and I think we said before, full disclosure, like in our StreamYard chat, we like put all the news stories. Now, at least, we didn't do this before, but we realized that we could do this, and it's a lot smarter to have all the stories like in the chat box, like where we could just read them off. And I'm like typing them in, and it's a lot.
You got a little novel going over here. There's so much.
Yeah. Great. But we've been really good at blowing through these, but like insightfully blowing through them. We're not just like skimming past anything with the stories. And it is exciting when you take like a couple weeks off from news to have like a lot of stuff to talk about rather than just 3 or 4 stories. It works out. I think we discussed that it works kind of both ways. Sometimes it's really good to have like this 2-week full of news, and then sometimes it's good to just get these out weekly, but episodes and circumstances don't allow it sometimes. So
exactly. We go with the flow here at Back to the Blockbuster. And, at the end of the day, all this stuff that we're going to be rattling off to you guys is just a sign of a healthy industry right now with a lot of moving parts, a lot of casting, a lot of trailers coming out, a lot to look forward to, and a busy blockbuster season coming up here too. So can't be more excited than to dive into it right now. And some interesting news to kick us off right off the top, but Gaius, just in case you know more a little bit about it, I'll let you take the lead here with this new LOTR news.
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about before that Warner Brothers had said that they wanted to do more Lord of the Rings movies because they have all this IP that they want to kind of take advantage of, whether it's Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, Batman, anything that they have that they own, they want to take advantage of it. And they finally are officially that there are new Lord of the Rings movies that are in the early stages of script development. And they anticipate releasing them in 2026 that they say will explore storylines yet to be told. The first film will be called Lord of the Rings, The Hunt for Gollum. Oddly enough, there is a fan film that was released several years ago, 15 years ago.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that had that title, and Warner Brothers removed it from YouTube for copyright, and then they got a lot of shit the next day. It was very vocal, and then they said, "Whoops, we didn't mean to do that. That was a mistake."
Okay, but, I didn't know they framed it that way. I did know that they put it back on there, which kudos to them. I get the conflict there with them wanting to have that, not have that on there if they're going to make a movie about it, but big move on their behalf for restoring it. Bullshit about them not meaning to do it though. I did not know about that.
Yeah, they totally meant to do it. They got a lot of pushback, and that's why they were like, "Oops!" So no, yeah, it can still live on YouTube, but they did put it back on. I forgot what the count was, but that fan film had like millions of views on YouTube. Since debuting in 2009,
and it's like 40 minutes long or something like that.
Yeah, it's 40 minutes long. It's like and a lot of work went into that, and it sucks that they were gonna, they at least put it back. Their reasons for doing it, I don't believe, but at least it's back up there. But this one is going to be directed by Andy Serkis, who will also star in the film as Gollum, of course.
I love that. That's one of the only things about this I like.
Yeah. And they said also that director Peter Jackson and his longtime writing partners Fran Walsh and Philippa Boyens will be involved every step of the way. Walsh will also be involved in writing the screenplay, and the deal covers 2 films in the franchise. And then Peter Jackson and his team said it is an honor and a privilege to travel back to Middle Earth with our good friend and collaborator Andy Serkis, who has unfinished business with that stinker Gollum. As lifelong fans of Professor Tolkien's vast mythology, we are proud to be working with Mike DeLuca, Penn Abdy, and the entire team at Warner Brothers on another epic achievement. This news for a lot of people when I read seemed more to elicit more like Hobbit vibes than like old school Lord of the Ring vibes. Like there wasn't a lot of people that seemed like they were overly excited about it, even if Peter Jackson is involved in some level as a producer and will be probably overseeing like scripts and all that stuff. Like, yeah, that's great, but he was also there every step of the way for the Hobbit, and he really wasn't supposed to be. I mean, like the story with that is like Guillermo del Toro was going to be involved in those. That fell apart, and then they were like, "Hey, we still need to get these done." Peter Jackson reluctantly stepped in without the same enthusiasm that he had for the original Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Virtually no prep time.
with no prep time on
Direct.
to adapt a very short book that was originally going to be 2 movies, and then while they're doing the 2 movies, they were like, "Hey, let's make them 3." So I mean, it was a cash grab, and I think that's what people are calling this. It sounds more like a cash grab than a a positive creative endeavor.
I'm glad you say that, because you think that the Hobbit story is short and that it's expanded into 3 movies. Are you familiar at all with the passage that describes the hunt for Gollum in the original novel?
No, not at all. Not at all.
So I obviously have not read J.R.R. Tolkien's books, but I have it on good authority that the cumulative amount of like page space that is dedicated to the actual titular hunt for Gollum in the novel is a generous half a page. So where this is going to become a feature length movie, I think is where a lot of this, backlash and negative remarks are probably coming from, because we've kind of had this happen with the Hobbits, where Peter Jackson and co have really expanded on a very small story, and it really shows. I haven't still seen the Hobbits. I'm a big original trilogy Lord of the Rings fan, but just for whatever reason never watched the Hobbits. I kind of listened to the criticism at the time, and I want to see them, but knowing that and knowing that this is kind of going to be the same issue with this Hunt for Gollum story has me a little bit not pumped. I love that Andy Serkis is coming back. He's a veteran of the franchise. All the motion capture technology that he brings with him is bound to make it look great, but I hope they kind of capture that magic of the first 3 movies and don't lean on the same mistakes that the Hobbit trilogy kind of produced. So I'm up in the air about this. I was curious though what you thought about it, or what your stake is in the whole Lord of the Rings, if you're fans of the movies.
Well, I like the original trilogy. I've only seen each Hobbit movie once, when they came out. So every December that they released them.
Right.
I do remember though. I mean, I do remember at the time the reviews weren't as good for the Hobbit movies as the Lord of the Rings movies, but they all made money. So I guess I guess that's the incentive for Warner Brothers to keep doing it, because they're like, yeah, there's an audience for it. Now, was the Hobbit a more obvious cash grab than this is? And it just depends on how, I guess, the timing, how you look at it. I mean, social media is way more active now, so there are a lot of people that can point out like, this sounds like a cash grab more so than the Hobbit at least did have source material that they could adapt. Now the cash grab part of it was turning a relatively short book into 3 films.
Exactly.
That was always seen as a kind of very obvious way for them to make money. And just based on what David Zaslav has said about the IPs at Warner Brothers, I keep hearing that more when I hear stories like this, like, oh, we're developing new movies. And it sounds more like, oh, we have all this IP that can make us money. Like, let's do it. Now, now they're trying to gain a lot of goodwill by including Andy Serkis, including Peter Jackson, including the original writing team. But that can only go so far. I mean, I don't know if there's really, I don't remember anyone. I haven't heard anyone clamoring for more Lord of the Rings stories. I know the show on Amazon has it's done well for them, I guess, because they are going to bring it back. But
have you seen the ratio it has on YouTube for the trailer right now?
Oh yeah, I did. Yeah, so maybe not. Maybe they don't love it. But yeah, I guess I really haven't really clamoring for the IP at all, really. So
I think the Rings of Power show has definitely brought the IP back in the public's frame of mind right now, and that's probably, I think, where this Warner Brothers movies hype is kind of coming from.
Yeah,
I don't have any illusions that the Rings of Power show to fans of the books and the original movies is in any way serviceable to the lore of Lord of the Rings. It seems like Amazon's kind of modern twist on it. And I think that shows on the massive dislike ratio that the second season trailer has. I haven't heard good things of the show, but I think in Warner Brothers hands, we could get a decent movie. It's a matter, it comes down to what you said and how far they want to stretch this thing. I think if they maybe embellish some stuff and add some lore maybe to it, and they might be able to get a short 1.5-hour movie out of the Hunt for Gollum, and that would be cool. But
embellishing a whole half a page of passage.
I think the way it exists right now as a fan-made short film on YouTube is probably the perfect medium for that story, and it's already been done. So I'm interested to see where this all lands. If not for Andy Serkis being attached to direct and star, I would say I would have zero excitement for this, but he will be the deciding factor, I think, in what he does with this.
Yep. I agree. So where we at on that is cautiously optimistic,
I suppose.
uh,
Yeah. Um,
yeah,
and on the other side of the circuit here with our next news item, I was very cautiously optimistic about this next thing that we're talking about. We've talked about it before, I guess, here. It's not like we're introducing it, but the A24's Friday the 13th series, I've now gotten a little bit less, or at least a little more, or a little less rather excited, or more, it's in the realm of curiosity now with Bryan Fuller stepping away. He was pegged to be the showrunner. I know him from his work on the Hannibal series that spanned, what was it, 2013 to 2015, 39 episode, great series.
Great TV show.
Great TV show. I know we both seen it. Really, really liked it. When I found out he was attached to this A24 series, I like, that's a match made in heaven, but he's since stepped away in the last couple of weeks since we've covered a news episode. And I don't know where that series is. There was actually, I know we were talking amongst ourselves and it looked like it actually might've been dead, but you posted something that seemed that it's hanging by a thread right now. It's not actually dead.
It was like the news for that was like, oh, they're killing it. And then like, I think it was like 30 minutes later, they're like, wait, it's like they're not killing it.
Yeah, it's on life support.
It's going through some creative retooling. And then the next day, Bryan Fuller released a statement. Just so people know, just in case they don't know who he is, in some capacity as a writer, creator, showrunner, he's been a part of a lot of shows. Star Trek Discovery, American Gods, Hannibal, like you said, Heroes, Pushing Daisies, a show from back in the day that people loved, Dead Like Me, another show from back in the day that people also love, Wonder Falls. He has a lot of goodwill in the industry, but he's also been known to like step away from projects a lot, so that's why some people were like, well, this is kind of a little bit of a running joke. But I think what you kind of see here is like which is surprising for A24, but it seems like he wanted something from this and they wanted something different, because what he said was, adapting classic horror is something I have some experience with. These shows require a vision that elevates and transforms, as well as delivers what audiences have come to expect, which is an ambitious and risky endeavor. It requires people to take the leap with me. When it works, as with Hannibal, the results can be powerful for the storytellers and the audience. I couldn't be more proud of the work my co-showrunner, Jim Danger Gray, and I were able to accomplish with our brilliant writing staff, despite the challenges we face. For reasons beyond our control, A24 has elected to go a different way with the material. We hope the final product will be something Friday the 13th fans all over the world will enjoy.
Yeah, nice that he has goodwill towards it at least. I'm not one way or another disappointed about their creative difference, because who's to say which creative endeavor is going to be, more favorable. I like that A24 sticking to their guns and they want the show to be done in a certain way, and they're not going to sacrifice that to somebody else that's coming on board. So I can respect that play on them. However, like, to Bryan Fuller's credit, he does have a good track record with bringing back classic horror in a new fashion, like what he did with Hannibal. I really like that show, and it was a good updated take on that IP. So I really was excited to see what he would do with this, but I'm not out of it by any means just because he's not in there. I just think it could have been a great pairing for them. I'm disappointed it didn't work out between him and A24, but I mean, A24 rarely disappoints as far as I'm concerned. So I trust that studio a lot. But what do you feel about, like, are you still interested to see who they bring on board?
I'm interested, but I'm wondering what kind of show
they were
hoping to have, because for better or worse, I think the Friday the 13th movies are fun, but they're no like Halloween for the most part, right? No. I mean, they're fun slasher movies at the end of the day, and like most fans want to just see Jason do a lot of that.
Yeah,
and there's also a big debate on how much they can use of him. Like, there's a big copyright issue with like, the films and like the original writer. I know the original writer does have the copyright to the original screenplay now, but it gets kind of messy and dicey when it comes to like the copyrights for the sequels and all that. But I don't know if they were trying to go for, if Bryan Fuller was doing a more art housey kind of show and they were like, no, or if he wasn't and he was, I can't imagine him trying to make something just dumb and mindless, I guess. So I just wonder where the disconnect was, because they, A24 hasn't said anything, and that's all he said about stepping down. I mean, I should have known something was up when the only news that we were getting about it was they announced it. They said that Adrienne King, who was like in the first Friday the 13th as Alice, like she was a part of it, so they were bringing her back. But beyond that, there was a lot, and then the strikes happened, so that that killed a lot of news. It's just a bummer because it's been over 15 years since the last movie, since the remake, and he hasn't been on the big screen or small screen at all. And a lot of that had to do with like the legal drama over the rights issues, and then that finally ended. Sean S. Cunningham was at a horror convention over the weekend where he said, and he even bring up the legal issues. He was like, we live in an age now where like viewing habits are different, especially post pandemic. And he was like, I think also the issue is a studio wanting to invest in a Friday the 13th film and worrying about whether they'll have a return on their investment. I kind of think that IP is strong and they would get their money back. I mean, you don't have to make a Friday the 13th movie like a big budgeted endeavor, right? But he feels strongly that, it's a little bit of a, studio cowardness when it comes to investing in another movie. But he wasn't all like doom and gloom about it. He was like, I think it could happen, but he wouldn't expect to see another film in like 3 or 4 years. And that's like even, a much longer wait. And he did say he wishes the TV show well that they're trying to do. I mean, I think it's interesting that A24 has said nothing about after Bryan Fuller left. There was just no other comments about it. So we really don't know what direction they were taking and what direction he was taking. We just know that they just didn't, they didn't have a meeting of the minds when it came to what the show should be, I guess. Which is, it's unfortunate.
Well, needless to say, sounds like both of us will definitely be keeping an eye on the pulse of the show going forward. I'm interested to see who they bring in as the next tentative showrunner, and hopefully they are on the same page. I don't know when this is all slated to come out. I'm hoping that they kind of just, work on writing and filming it before they have a release date. I'm not sure though. Do you know if they're trying to get this out at a certain time?
I think they kind of, it was in development, and I think they are going to stick to that and not say when they were trying to. It seemed like they were trying to like go for a 2025 release when they first announced it, but I doubt that's going to happen now. I think they just have to reevaluate and then get another creative mind on there to really spearhead it. Again, I don't know what direction you take a Friday the 13th show, because it seems like it's just easy and fun to do it. Like it, and this isn't like Hannibal. This isn't like, another good example of a good horror movie television series. Like Bates Motel was a solid television series based on a horror film that was by nature is more psychological. So you can go deeper with those stories. I don't think you really need to go deeper with Friday the 13th other than, slice and dice. But I mean, maybe they want to go. I don't know. I guess I imagine A24 being a little bit more highbrow, and I guess like
that's how I'm thinking is the approach they want to take this, which is why Bryan Fuller made so much sense, right?
Yeah. So it'd be funny if like, what if they didn't want highbrow and he was going for that, or the opposite's true, right? So I don't. It's funny. I still have to send you this movie, by the way. I watched A Violent Nature over the weekend, and a lot of people have said that that movie is, if Friday the 13th was like an art house movie, it would be in A Violent Nature, pretty much.
Nice. I'm very excited to see that.
So like, I mean, I enjoyed it. I mean, it's not gonna be for everybody for sure, because I already looked on IMDb, and it's getting savage over there by people who are expecting.
Really?
Okay. That's like as a 5.5 out of 10 on there right now, and I think that's regular people not really being caught up in the gimmick of it, like the concept,
right?
But yeah, that's what Friday the 13th would be if it was like an art house indie movie, I guess. But yeah, what they wanted from it, I have no idea. I mean, it would be funny if A24 was like, no, we want like a slice and dice show, and they're like, oh, we thought you wanted something better. You're A24,
right?
But who knows, man. I just like to see him back around, I guess. Him and Freddy Krueger have been like away from like. I mean, I know we don't necessarily need another Friday the 13th or even another Nightmare on Elm Street, but Halloween got to have a resurgence in like this kind of new era of horror movies. So the other Mount Rushmore of on that Mount Rushmore of horror should have another go.
On the other hand, on the other side of that coin, you're right. It'd be refreshing to see them again, but I also think in this age of legacy sequels and countless reboots, I think some time off is good, and will give the inevitable next appearance of those characters some time to breathe. At least audiences and a new generation experiencing them for the first time will be a good thing overall. And so we're now the tail end of however many years this wait to see Jason Voorhees or Freddy Krueger will be. And I think that's something at least to be happy of. But we know it's not going to be another 15 years before we see them. It'll probably only be a handful. And I think it'll be well worth the wait if things go, according to plan. I know that's easier said than done, but I like that it's not like, every 5 years we get another one. It gives us time to experience other things, and for other slashers like In a Violent Nature to kind of shoot their shot in the absence, in the vacuum.
Yeah.
And I like that. So, but I am excited for it too.
Yep, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
All right. We have some Sydney Sweeney casting news. I just want to apologize for a second, because I think when we were talking about her when Anyone But You came out, I may have sounded like I didn't understand all the hype around her. I mean, I know she's beautiful, and I do feel bad now, especially after that casting director, a female casting director, actually basically implied that she wasn't talented and not that attractive. And Sydney Sweeney has kind of proven. I mean, I think after Immaculate, and I know I probably should have figured this after watching Euphoria, but Euphoria is such a very specific performance that I was like, okay, maybe it was just that had been a fluke or whatever. But Immaculate,
and her first breakout too.
Yeah. Immaculate proved to me that she can really act, and she's also making moves as a producer. She was a producer on Anyone But You and Immaculate. She got Immaculate made pretty much. So she is I think she's 26. So doing a lot already.
Yeah.
So I know I sounded lukewarm after that Anyone But You trailer came out, and I was like, I don't. She doesn't seem all that funny or engaging, but she's making a lot of big moves, and that's impressive. She was already attached to this Barbarella movie, which is going to be like a kind of a reboot. I think it's like a 60s, like from 1968. It's a 1968 film that they're remaking. I believe Jane Fonda was in the original.
Okay.
And this is something
what's it all about?
Barbarella, the 1968 film directed by Roger Vadim, follows an astronaut from the 41st century who sets out to find and stop the evil scientist Duran, whose death ray threatens to bring evil back into the galaxy. It wasn't a massive box office hit, but it was a cult classic over the years.
Okay.
Sony,
not what I would have guessed.
Sony really wants it to be like one of their next big projects. They see franchise potential from it. She has a good relationship with Sony after Anyone But You. Not so much Madam Web, but it kept her involved with Sony. So this got announced a while ago, but like I guess the biggest steam that it's gotten is Edgar Wright is in talks to direct it, which would be a big get for the movie. It's interesting what his career choices lately, because he is also directing Glenn Powell, her Anyone But You co-star, in a remake of The Running Man, which starred Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Right. I'm on his IMDb profile right now, and I don't see the Barbarella, so I guess he really is only in talk so far. And he hasn't made a feature-length movie since 2021 with Last Night in Soho, which I have not seen, but he's the director that I really cherish his movies, so I'm excited for this news.
And the writers they have attached, Jane and Honey Goldman. Jane Goldman, I mean, I guess Honey is a daughter, but Jane Goldman has helped launch successful franchises like the rebooted X-Men films with James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender, as well as Matthew Vaughn's The Kingsman Secret Service too. Okay. So that's good screenwriting pedigree, I think, for something like this. I don't have any real emotional attachments to the IP, I guess. But if they think they can make, I mean, if it helps that he's involved and they're involved, like it seems like they have good writers and he's a good director. He's made some fun stuff. So I'm kind of looking forward to what they do with it. But I'm not big on it either way. I mean, you just found out what Barbarella was about now. So
interesting career step for Sydney Sweeney. If this does end up being something that Sony makes a franchise out of, that does seem like a natural next step for her to tackle something where she's had her breakout TV role, which looks like sadly Euphoria season 3 isn't going anywhere anytime soon or coming anywhere anytime soon. And then she's had some success in some of Sony's other works, and then Immaculate, a horror breakout for her. So this seems like, and she's been really, really busy in the last couple of years since she exploded out of Euphoria. So this seems like the next step for her to make at least something of a creative gamble, which I can appreciate, because who knows if that Barbarella will resonate with modern audiences. I'm interested to see what becomes of all that. And, sci-fi epics are all the rage in the 2020s. So seems like it's a good time to make something like that, hoping on Sony's behalf that it doesn't kind of come a little bit too late to the crowd. What with Dune kind of having a strong foothold in this decade with like sci-fi stuff and Star Wars movies and shows still coming out. But if it finds a foothold, that's great. And hopefully it can launch her in even more success. And this is not the only thing she's been cast or looking to be cast in, because she's also looking to play, taking on like a more biographical picture role here, playing boxer Christy Martin in a new film. I don't know what the film is called, but I've seen the shots of the Christy Martin, like the actual woman, while this news was kind of running about.
Yeah, so it's untitled right now. I actually watched a couple of documentaries about Christy Martin. It's a very impressive story. I mean, she's a very impressive athlete, but I believe her husband was also her trainer, and he nearly killed her, like nearly left her for dead. It was like really a bad encounter that happened between them, and really is one of those stories about the will to survive, basically. And he kind of like while he did develop her and train her and made her who she was, he also got her involved in a lot of activities that almost derailed her career, like substance abuse and all that kind of stuff. So it was a very toxic relationship that culminated in a very aggressive act of violence from him against her, and she survived it. And it's a really inspirational story. I guess Sydney Sweeney is also a big boxing fan. So she really wanted to. So she's an anomaly. She's a boxing fan. Apparently, she loves to work on cars. She's like a gearhead.
Stuff, yeah.
yeah. So like she's like the anti-girl, even though she doesn't look like the anti-girl. But like So I mean, it's interesting that we have the Barbarella news and then this, because like one sounds like she's trying to do like fun IP franchise stuff, but then also do like dramatic stuff that sells her more as an actress, maybe gets awards attention. Whatever that may be. So like she's doing both. Well, I guess it's like the best kind of career you would want to have if you were her age in the industry right now.
Absolutely. She's making some big moves. I'm actually just seeing too, this Christy Martin biopic is being helmed by David Michaud, who I'm a big fan of. I know it's more popular. The Animal Kingdom television show is a little bit more popular than the original movie. Man. Have you seen the original Australian film?
Sadly, I have not seen it. I feel really bad because I love the show.
Dude, check that movie out. It's great. David Michaud is the director, and the only other of his works that I've seen, although The Rover with Robert Pattinson has always caught my eye too. But he did The King in 2019 with Timothée Chalamet and Joel Edgerton, and a couple other A-listers too. That is a great Netflix movie. So this guy has some good directing credits under his name too. I did not realize he was attached to this project. That's got me even more excited because I've been waiting to see what he would do next. And this is one of two things that he has coming up. So that's great. But dude, you got to watch the Animal Kingdom.
Yeah, I've been told by a lot of people that say that it's really good. And this is being sold to international buyers at the Cannes Film Festival. So there is appeal here. She is a big star. She has name recognition. I think they probably feel like she has box office appeal too on top of that. So, and I think she's also going to work on this as a producer as well. So building up those credits even more. Mm-hmm. So good for her. You have like two sides of this kind of, movie making coin here where, some people want to have IPs and franchises, and it is important but I think those kind of movies are important for actors because they, kind of do those to maybe get those smaller movies made that they want to do. So I feel like that's what she's doing. She's very smart and very strategic.
Absolutely.
All right. So other than that, more casting news, which we're just going to lump into one big announcement because Fantastic Four, for a lot of people, is shaping up to be, at least cast-wise, one of the
powerhouse
MCU movies. So the first casting announcement that we missed while we were off was for Paul Walter Hauser, who actually was having a big week. And that week, he was announced to be cast in Fantastic Four. He was also announced to be starring in the Chris Farley biopic that's going to be directed by Josh Gad. And he also is going to be in the Naked Gun reboot with Liam Neeson. That all was in the same week that this news got announced. No word on who he's playing in Fantastic Four yet. They're being very secretive about him. And then after him, John Malkovich joined the cast of Fantastic Four. Again, no word on who he's playing. They just announced that he's in it. The one name that we got, who we know is playing, it's Ralph. Is it Ineson, who was in The Witch?
Yes. He's a great actor.
He is playing Galactus, which just based on voice alone should be very, very good. So everyone was really excited about this. This was like news that was on no one's radar because everyone had other ideas on who Galactus was going to be, and his name wasn't even in the mix at all. And then following him, Natasha Lyonne, who is, a lot of us might remember from like the American Pie movies back in the day, but she's made it big with like TV in recent years with like Poker Face and Russian Doll on Netflix. She's a writer and director on those shows as well. She is going to also be involved in the Fantastic Four movie, joining the cast as well. And then they also are, in case you guys already knew this, but Pedro Pascal is Reed Richards, Vanessa Kirby is Sue Storm, Joseph Quinn is Johnny Storm, and Ivan Bachrach from what the cooking show? Why am I blanking on the name with
The Bear?
The Bear, there we go.
Yeah.
It's going to be The Thing. So the cast is just stacked, and the guy who
really
directed Matt Shackman, who directed WandaVision, is the director on this. So
okay.
And it looks like it's I forgot Julia Garner is playing a version of the Silver Surfer. So also her.
Yeah, so there's 9 cast members on there right now, and they're all looking pretty powerful, pretty stacked looking cast. And so it's a 60s setting, right? Like this is gonna be a
it seems like there's
movie.
I think that's where they're going with it. That's the rumor, and I think it's I think they think it's pretty accurate that it's gonna be like a period kind of piece.
Period piece. Nice.
And it will be, I mean, it's interesting because Marvel had a lot of good news today. They said that Deadpool and Wolverine tickets went on sale today, and they said they already see like strong pre-sales from it within like the first few hours of tickets going on sale today. So that's good news. That's good news for Marvel because they needed some. And I think people are looking at this cast announcement with all these people who are all very talented actors joining this cast. Also, creates some more goodwill for their future projects. So, I mean, I don't know where you stand on Fantastic Four. I actually don't mind the 2005 movie from back in the day. It's like, it's all right. It's fun. It's not definitive Fantastic Four, of course, but I enjoy it for what it is. But I think people are excited that they're going to be in the MCU officially, and that the cast is pretty impressive. I don't know where you kind of stand on where you are with the project based on the cast, or if it's enough.
I like this cast a lot. I also like the period setting that they're going for. That being said, like, how I feel about Marvel and the MCU, so I'm kind of waiting with bated breath. But that being said, this is shaping up to be the best of the 3 iterations of this team that we've seen so far, or that we will see by the time this one comes out in just over a year. Looking at a July 25th, 2025 release date, which I think is a negative, I would say, about this production. Like, I don't know, don't pigeonhole yourself with something like that. And we've already seen how that's kind of put on undue pressure on like animation teams and everything to get things, and CGI crews and even marketing to get things out for a certain date. I would say, other than that aside, this is all shaping up to be a good project. And I'm indifferent about the 2005 version. I haven't seen it since I was a kid. Would really need to rewatch to have any sort of opinion. And I don't even know if we'll bother going into the Fan 4-stick Josh Trank version.
Oh, I forgot all about that. Yeah, that was awful. Okay,
I haven't seen. I never will. Probably.
Let me clarify. The 2005 movie is fun. The sequel, Rise of the Silver Surfer, is trash, and the Fan 4-stick movie is trash. I will never forget when I saw that in theaters. And
how could it be that bad? How
you could tell? You could tell like it, like there was just a massive cut somewhere where it's just like you go from like it feels like setup to all of a sudden you're in the final climactic battle, and I was like, I feel like there's like 30 minutes of this
movie that got cut on.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable how poorly that movie was received, and it's kept me far away from ever wanting to go near it.
I felt bad for Josh Trank. I mean, I heard that he was kind of arrogant about the whole thing, and like, it wasn't his fault. There's a lot of studio interference, and that could be very well true. I mean, I actually loved Chronicle. That was like his first
Chronicle, which a banger.
So I think that's why they even chose him to do Fantastic Four. But his career hasn't really recovered. I know he did that Tom Hardy movie after Fantastic Four. I think Capone. I think it was that one that he did.
Oh, really?
But like he hasn't had like a lot of goodwill at all.
That movie too, I don't think did him any favors.
Yeah, so you haven't really heard the name a lot since Fantastic Four. There's a reason for that, I guess. But this seems more positive. I'm actually excited for the cast. So, I like Marvel a little bit more than you, but I'm kind of in the stage now where it's like I'm looking forward to Deadpool and Wolverine. Yeah. I'm excited what they're doing right now with Daredevil. I'm glad that they kind of scrapped what they were going to do with that show.
I respect that move too.
They were going to connect it all to the Netflix series, and then during the writer's strike, I guess they looked at what they had and was like, this is dumb. Why don't we just connect it to the Netflix series, bring all these people back that were on that show? That's what the fans want. So now that is directly connected to picking up after season 3 of the Netflix show. So they're making some smart decisions, it seems, behind the scenes. So hopefully all goes well.
Exactly. Fingers crossed that it pays off and ends up, being another successful Marvel. I guess my anticipation will probably be based upon my reception of Deadpool versus Wolverine next month, which I also am excited to see. Will be the first Marvel movie I'll make the effort to go see in theaters in a while. So that movie's got my interest, and seems like they are
only one you have to see this year, man. So
yeah, there you go. It's not like you're asking too much of me, and they are due for a big rebound and recovery after a shaky last 3 or 4 years and a couple of phases. So you know what? Hopefully they're on the up and up, but I guess that remains to be seen. Moving on to the next one, our boy Zac Efron is keeping busy. Post Iron Claw, he's just been, I guess he's in talks currently to star in a movie called Night Business, which I have not looked into whatsoever yet. What do you know about this movie? I don't know anything beyond his potential involvement.
Well, Ty West is in talks to direct it. He actually might be fully attached to it. So
okay.
Everyone knows him from the X trilogy, so he has like Maxine coming out in July to finish that off. Night Business is based on a graphic novel of the same name, and according to the synopsis, they said in this 1980s trash culture homage, where a knife-wielding killer is on the loose, committing extreme acts of violence on exotic dancers, only one man has a will powerful enough to stop this psychopath, Johnny Timothy. But can Johnny mete out his vengeance before more innocent victims have to die? A nasty brew of power, passion, vigilantes, and dangerous men raining street justice down upon their enemies. There's no other casting news about this, but it's a good trend for Zac Efron, who's after the Iron Claw. Yeah, Ricky Stenicki came after that, which I thought
I forgot about that.
it was fine. I mean, it was like very easy role for Zac Efron to do.
Right. I heard it was funny.
I had some fun with it. It was very reminiscent of like, he wasn't as douchey as like his neighbor's role, but very reminiscent of like that kind of comedy, I guess. And then that other like wedding dates movie that he did like a few years ago, or some years ago with Anna Kendrick.
Yeah.
Like that kind of vibe of comedy. But like the Iron Claw, a lot of people thought A24 fucked that movie over bad by not, giving him more award season.
The release schedule for that was
and after I saw it, I was like, he could have easily competed, I think. I know you felt like a little differently, that maybe he couldn't have snuck in, but it was a good movie for him to do, though, to show that his range and all that.
Absolutely. Maybe in a less busy year, I think he could have been in there, or if they went with 6 nominees, he'd probably be my 6th. But I really for all intents and purposes, really liked his performance in the Iron Claw. And so, I'm all here for the Zac Efron career. I don't know if resurgence is the right word, but he's definitely acting in a different vein than he did post High School Musical days.
Well, do you remember? Like, I remember before Iron Claw, I guess, and like his recent run of movies, he had did that Firestarter remake, and then he got a new agent.
Oh God!
So I was like,
new agent. I didn't know that. Sounds like a good move for him.
I was like, do that. That makes more sense, because that remake was not good. So he definitely wasn't getting the roles that he probably should have been getting. For someone that is his age and is a good actor and good looking dude, he has all the stuff that you would think that
all the ingredients in there,
make him more successful. And I know he had like a pretty good like run in his 20s, like post High School Musical. Like he was in hits. But I think like anyone that, this is gonna sound weird, like sadly anyone that looks like him, they have to prove themselves. Like it sounds weird. I'm saying like it's hard to be like good looking, but like I think for sometimes for people like him, they have to overcome that to be taken seriously.
Yep.
I think Sydney Sweeney deals with that as a woman too. Like everyone's focused on what she looks like rather than can she act. So I think he dealt with that for a little bit in his 20s, and now that he's like 35 now, like he's trying to take on more serious stuff, and maybe is a bit more maybe a bit more selective about what he does. So good for him. This sounds interesting, at least. And Ty West is a good director. So.
Yeah, and excited to see his next movie later this year, obviously with Maxine. I just want to throw in there too another hurdle that Zac Efron had to overcome in his acting career is being a former Disney Channel actor too, which is a whole other pivot that a lot of people have not been able to successfully make. And he is one of probably the golden children for that. Not that he was well, yeah, I guess he would have been considered a child when in the High School Musical days, but one of the golden examples of someone who's made a successful career post Disney. So all the kudos to him.
Yeah, I didn't even know with the first High School Musical, it wasn't even his singing voice. They used his singing voice in 2 and 3. I had no idea.
Not in the first? Oh.
No, they interviewed the guy. I forgot the reason why they did this, but they interviewed the guy who said like, "Oh, no hard feelings. I feel like I was still represented." I was like, "Well, do you?" Because I don't know how many people actually really know who you are.
I never knew that.
I was like, Troy Bolton was a fraud. I had no idea. But no, he did singing in like the 2 and 3, and he did all of his own singing in Hairspray in that movie too. So he can sing. He's musically inclined. So I don't know why they didn't. Maybe his voice was going through a weird transitional period in the first movie, and they did. Maybe they didn't want to use it. But yeah, you're right. It's a rare case of Disney people making it. He did have a little rough spot when he was making Neighbors. There's a interesting LA story about him. Looking for stuff on Skid Row and saying that he was looking for a sushi place. And like there's Skid Row is a really rough part of LA.
Yeah.
No sushi places there at all.
Okay. Interesting.
But he's actually admitted to that stuff. Like when he did Neighbors, that he was partying a lot and had to calm himself down. But I think he was able to kind of do that a little bit more undercover than most people from his ilk, I guess, that they would be in the news a bit more, I think, had they done it, and he was able to kind of deflect that a bit.
Nice.
Yeah. So, good for him. All right, we got more casting news. There's a lot of it. So this was exciting, though.
Yeah, I honestly I didn't even see what director was underneath this news when you typed it in here. But fresh off Challengers, Luca Guadagnino's next film is shaping up, and Andrew Garfield and Julia Roberts are joining him. Apparently, I don't know any details about his movie. I'm still high off the watch of Challengers. That movie was fantastic. We'll probably be we'll be riding that high for the rest of 2024, and we'll be rooting for it at next year's Oscars. But I'm glad to see he is keeping busy. I'm glad to see Andrew Garfield and Julia Roberts up in the mix there too. Do you know anything about this this up and coming movie?
So apparently it's called After the Hunt. They're going to start a summer production of it this summer, and the intention is to release it in theaters next year. The synopsis says After the Hunt is an intense dramatic thriller about a college professor who finds herself at a personal and professional crossroads when a star pupil levels an accusation against one of her colleagues, and a dark secret from her past threatens to come to light. I feel like he's good with directing these kind of like they feel like relationship dramas, I guess.
Yes, exactly.
Because Challengers was definitely complicated, very complicated. I guess Bones and All is also complicated in its own way.
Yeah.
Call Me by Your Name, another one that's also complicated. That seems to be his bread and butter, though. I mean, Andrew Garfield is a really good actor. I love when he's in stuff. And Julia Roberts at this point, she's pretty much a goat in her, in her generation of actresses. So always fun to see her pop up and stuff. It's very interesting pairing. I wouldn't think of like putting them in a movie together, but
the gap there makes sense. I can see either of them in those roles. I'm really intrigued by the premise of that. Honestly, it sounds like a blend of a couple different movies that I can't quite pinpoint right now. It sounds a little bit like that Miller's Crossing movie that came out. Was it Martin Campbell
and Jenna Ortega,
or not Martin Campbell?
Freeman.
Yeah.
Which got bad reviews. I haven't watched it.
No, I was disappointed to see how that movie fared.
It got more attention for like, oh, she looks too young, kind of.
Yeah.
But yeah, it sounds interesting, and I guess this became a hot property, specifically after Challengers hit it big. They really wanted it, and they were like, who's attached to it? When they found out Garfield and Roberts were attached to it, Amazon moved quick to buy it, and Amazon is going to give it a theatrical release, probably similar to what they did with Challengers. Apparently Amazon MGM got Bones and All and Challengers in a package deal, which is why another reason why that covered a lot of the budget for that movie and how they picked it up. So
nice.
It seems like he's moving a little bit more mainstreamy with his movies. especially particularly with the people he's working with. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I think Challengers like opening weekend, by the end of its opening weekend, was his highest grossing movie here in the
Oh
States.
my God.
Which,
Yeah.
So good for him.
As
But yeah,
long as the big studios don't stifle his, creative vision, because he's making movies like, again, unlike really anybody else right now. I kind of compare him to
yeah,
Yorgos Lanthimos in a way.
yeah,
I'm all on board with his, working with bigger studios, but I really like the stuff that he does, and he seems to be kind of a creative weirdo, and I don't want that vision to be squandered by some of the bigger name studios. But I mean, if Amazon
yeah,
has put out his last couple, then sure, I'm fine
yep,
with that. I
yep.
like that working
Go with it.
relationship. Um, yeah,
All
what do you
right, what
make
we
of
got
this
next?
next? So we got a John Wick spinoff. Doesn't really come as that much of a surprise considering the trajectory that IP has been taking, definitely since the success of
It's like spinning off
4.
everyone.
Exactly. So Donnie Yen's character from John Wick 4 from last year was a breakout character for sure. I can't remember
Kane.
Kane, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
The blind assassin. He was
yeah,
badass. I really love that. I'm not too surprised to see that clearly that fan favorite performance is
yeah,
yielded a spinoff, which is supposedly coming out. Where I'm kind of walking the tightrope is, and I'm a huge fan of all 4 John Wick movies. That is a series that is not missed, and it is one of those rare IPs that has been increasingly better, I think, movie by
yeah,
movie. I'm just worried that, all great things coming to an end, and I don't want to see it go down the route of, too much of a good thing kind of ruining what it's got
yeah,
going on for itself. And I think the announcement of a John Wick 5 after the ending we got in John Wick 4 was the first kind of sign of a
yeah.
little bit of that
And
maybe being a
got
thing.
the Continental on Peacock, which I
Has
never
that come and
watched.
gone?
It kind of came out, and I don't know. I didn't hear it much
I
of
didn't hear
anything
anything
about it.
about it. I remember
Um,
anticipating it, and then it kind of
yeah,
went with the breeze.
and then we were going to get the ballerina this year, but they pushed it to next year. I
Okay.
think they want to add more action to it. And then we're getting this. I mean, the character was fun. I mean, I don't doubt that he should maybe have his own spinoff but it's like one of those things too. I mean, it seems like it'd be fun, but is it too much of a good thing? Like maybe he's a good like side character and not like
Do we
one you
need an
want to.
origin of every single kind of
And
interesting
I think that's
character?
what's gonna happen is like because I know there were talks for a little bit with Halle Berry's character from the third one about doing a project with her, which I mean she was badass in her like it wasn't like a
Yep.
big role, but she had some badass moments, her and her
Yep.
dogs
Pretty
in
big
that movie.
sequence, yeah, in that
Yeah,
fight. Yep.
I mean that that her and Keanu Reeves mostly did themselves. They did a lot of it themselves, so that was a really cool, distinct sequence to have. But maybe these characters are great because they're like small, self-contained supporting characters, and not everyone doesn't need their own movie. I guess is what I'm saying.
I completely agree, and this is a lesson that this IP does not want to learn yet. But again, we haven't really seen this yet. This sort of spinoff, we haven't seen Ballerina yet, so it's
Yeah,
not nothing to say that they can't pull it off and make it good. But I just think we're getting a lot of John Wick really quick. But that being said, like they haven't missed yet. So like where do you draw the
yeah.
line
Like
and
how do you
want
get
to
mad about it?
exactly?
Yeah,
But you also want to end on a good note too, right? You don't want to run the risk of having a perfect 4 movies
yeah,
and then kind of putting out a stinker and then that being like your legacy. That's what everyone's going to remember if people get fed up with it. But I don't know.
right.
I'm kind of 50-50 on it. I did like the performance of Kane by Donnie
Yeah,
Yen. But again, I also didn't feel like I needed more. I would take that character in a sequel or in a
yeah,
show, but I don't know, like all about him. I don't know.
yeah. And it's supposed to shoot in Hong Kong in 2025. And I guess when they were doing John Wick 4, that he kind of fought back against a lot of Asian stereotypes that were in the script at first. So he worked with the director on how to change how the character dressed, how he spoke, his name, even. So
Okay,
like they worked really well on like kind of stripping away those stereotypes,
good on him.
which is why they were able to kind of develop. I think go into developing this spin-off movie too. But yeah, this might have me like cautiously optimistic. I mean, he was a fun character though. He
He
had some
really
really
was.
cool stuff in it, but we'll see. Um, this next bit of news, I guess it was inevitable. I guess it did well for Amazon, but Roadhouse 2 is officially
Mhm.
happening with Jake Gyllenhaal. No plot details are out yet, but in case you're wondering why we're getting one, they claim that the film has attracted nearly 80 million worldwide viewers to date, and that the film premiered on Prime Video March 21st and attracted a record-breaking 50 million worldwide viewers in its first weekend on the platform, or first 2 weekends on the platform. And it became Amazon MGM Studios' most watched produced film debut ever on a worldwide basis on the streamer. So that's why it's happening. Not sure if Doug Lyman's coming back, and because we know that was a little dicey when they made it a streaming release. I watched it. It was fun. I need to letterbox it. I've been slacking on that. It was fun. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, he's clearly Jake Gyllenhaal's in his fun phase, I guess. So
true. I also love him or hate him. I do think Conor McGregor brought a lot of eyes to that movie, just because his notoriety in MMA and his flamboyant personality. I'm not on board with the Conor McGregor, acting breakout by any means, but I mean, I didn't make the time to see Roadhouse. I'm not surprised to see the sequel because I did know about its, massive success on Amazon Prime. And I know that it's successful because I've had actual multiple people just like in my life, like that aren't like movie fans by any means, that just kind of casually sit down and watch stuff sometime, ask me if I've seen it. Yeah. And I was like, oh, this clearly this is reaching people.
I realized it was trending. At least in those 2 weeks, I got a pretty nice bonus from MovieWeb for covering a story about the movie in its first 2 week in its first 2 weekends. It was like my biggest story that week, and I think it was because the movie was just trending. But like we talked about with these streaming movies, they trend that quick, and then they like. Of the 80 million worldwide views, 50 of them were in the first 2 weeks. So like it just seems like it just seems like it kind of falls off, and then you don't really talk about it much. But yeah, I guess it did well enough for them to want to do another one. So good for them, I guess. I wonder if they go streaming or do they try to go theatrical, because I know that's a big issue with the first one. Are they just like don't?
Yeah, I don't know.
Don't fix it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm like leading is to what their logic will be, but. If they think there's money to be made at the box office, so they don't want to leave on the table, then who knows?
All right, I got some release dates to throw you and see how much you care about it. How much you care about. I'm gonna maybe rapid fire some of these. Mortal Kombat 2 has an official release date of October 24th, 2025. If you remember, the first one I guess not the first one, but the rebooted first one came out April 2021 in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. Made $42 million domestically and $83 million worldwide, but it came out during a time when theaters were not fully open. It also became the biggest movie on the HBO Max streaming service at the time. Did you see it?
I did not. It kind of interests me, but never got around to seeing it. But I know it was not as bad as I think people might have like thought that movie was going to be.
Much better than it should have. Much better than
it should have been. There you go. That's a good way of putting it.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. Now I know there were some people that got upset because you don't get to the actual tournament in the movie. There are fight scenes, but there's no actual like Mortal Kombat in the movie because it's building up to the tournament. So I know some fans were upset about that, but other than that, I think nostalgia makes us like that 1995 one.
Yeah,
because it has that like really cool like Techno Syndrome song. Everyone loves that song, and like it's a good song. I don't know if it's a great movie, but it's fun for its time at least.
I see it's in post production already. That's going to be a long post. It being May already, and it's coming out in October 2025. I didn't really realize where this movie was at in its filming process. I wouldn't have guessed it was this far along. But let me ask you this: is Carl Urban in the first?
No, he's not. He's playing Johnny Cage though in this one, which is a big fan favorite character.
Yeah, that's cool.
He's the biggest new addition to the cast.
Didn't even hear about that. Sweet. I love Carl Urban.
And Joe Taslim was amazing as Sub-Zero. It's one of those like silent but deadly kind of performances, I guess.
Okay.
He's one of those people that they said moves so fast on camera that they like have to tell him to slow down because he's also, it's funny because he plays someone so menacing, but he's super nice and sweet. Like if you follow him like his Instagram stuff, like that does not seem like the same dude. But yeah, he's a badass though. So like his scenes in Sub-Zero were like really good. Yeah, it was fun. I think people like kind of took it to like tried to take it too seriously, but yeah, I enjoyed it. I think there's a reason why it did so well on HBO Max as well too. Next up on release dates, Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow has an official release date of June 26, 2026. So that means that the Superman movie is going to come out in July 2025. And then this will follow a year later. So now we know at least the order of the new DCU. By the way, July 2025 is going to be a really busy month because
clearly
Superman comes out, then Fantastic Four opens that month. Down the line, you'll see that I Know What You Did Last Summer is also coming out that month too. It's just a really, really weird, busy time. But I wonder if anyone's gonna like budge and like move from there because they're coming out within like a 1 or 2 weeks of each other.
I wouldn't be if I were a studio trying to find a weekend or a month rather to release something. I'm considering July 2025 packed already. Like, no more room.
But yeah, Craig Gillespie is directing that one. And then Millie Alcock, who is was on House of the Dragon, is going to be playing the lead role. I don't know where your excitement level is on this one, or you're just kind of like indifferent.
I'm planning on following James Gunn's DCU from the get-go, just because it'll be easy just to follow it as it's beginning. So yeah, I'm gonna wait and harbor my excitement until the first Superman movie comes out, though.
Yep. All right, I'm with you on that one too. Like I just said, I Know You Did Last Summer has also its legacy sequel has a release date for Sony Pictures, July 18th, 2025. No word on if the original cast is officially returning, but Jennifer Love Hewitt and Freddie Prinze Jr. have talked about being approached. They just need to read a script. I would have hoped they would have gotten one by now, but
especially that's not a lot of time to film, edit, do a whole post, and then get it out.
Yeah, and for fans of this franchise, like we've talked about it before, we even covered the sequel against Jack Smith's better judgment. I think we said on here, like the first one is a fun kind of murder mystery movie. But I think just to make up for it during Tales of Horror, like that should be one of the ones that we cover because it is a much better movie than I Still Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yes,
but I'm trying to. I'm just, and there's also a direct-to-video sequel. And after that, I'll Always Know You Did Last Summer, which is awful. I'm just trying to figure out what's going to be canon. Is it just the first movie, or are they going to make the sequel canon as well? Like, can Brandy come back?
I hope they just go right from the first. That'd be nice. Follow the Halloween 2018 kind of formula.
Because this does not have the same pedigree as Scream, which is why the whole like legacy sequel thing seems weird.
Yeah,
but yeah, that's getting a release date. I'm gonna skip over the Blumhouse one really quick because Insidious 6 is a Sony Pictures release as well. That is coming out as August 29th, 2025. It will be the 6th film in the Insidious franchise. By the way, it is not the same as another previously announced Insidious project called Thread, an Insidious Tale, which is going to be an in-universe series spinoff that was first reported in 2023, starring Mandy Moore. So that is separate from this Insidious 6 movie. The last Insidious 6 or Insidious movie was The Red Door that Patrick Wilson starred in. He came back from the first two movies, and Ty Simpkins was also back as his son. He directed the movie as well. It made $180 million globally on a $16 million budget, so that's why we're getting another one.
Despite middling to negative reviews.
Yeah, someone called this the Fast and the Furious of the horror movie franchises now, and I'm inclined to maybe believe them.
Where do you stand with this series?
I love the first movie. I think the first movie is like really good. The second one is a big letdown from the first because you could tell it's crazy because James Wan, he directed it, like he was involved in it. But when you see how closely it came out to The Conjuring, it was like maybe his focus was like more on The Conjuring and less on Insidious.
The Insidious movies feel like the warm up for him to do The Conjuring,
right? And then the third one I think is like the prequel one, right? And I think that one is decent. I kind of lose track.
Is the third one called The Last Key, or is that the fourth one?
No, I think that's the fourth one.
Okay.
So and then The Red Door is the fifth one. So yeah, the third one is the prequel one.
Okay.
And I remember it being decent, but I don't know. I got to rewatch them. But yeah, that's coming out August. Horror is going to be fully represented in 2025. There's 28 years later in June. You have I Know You Did Last Summer in July. You have this in August. There's like another horror film coming out as well during that time period. I think it might be one of these Blumhouse movies that we're about to discuss.
Okay.
Universal Pictures and Blumhouse, they are dating their movies as well. Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is going to come out December 5th, 2025. Reason we're getting a sequel because it made 291.4 million globally on a very, very slim budget. I think the budget was like less than $20 million. It had an $80 million opening weekend, despite also premiering on the Peacock streaming service in its opening weekend. It's also Blumhouse's highest grossing movie ever on a worldwide basis. So that's why you're getting the second one. I actually didn't hate the first movie. It really was. It feels like it's an intro for little kids that want to get into horror movies.
Yeah.
So I gave it credit for that, and I never played the game. So I saw my brother who is familiar with it, and he was pointing out like Easter eggs from the games like while we were watching the movie, and I was like, I would have never gotten that. So that helps. The Black Phone 2 is moving its release date from June 27, 2025 to October 17th, 2025. So right in time for spooky season.
I love the first one. Don't think we need a sequel though.
I don't think we need a sequel either. But it made 161.4 million globally on an $18 million budget. So there you go.
Yep.
Blumhouse is going to Blumhouse. So that's why you're getting
money.
Megan 2.0 moves from May 16th, 2025 into June. The June slot that the Black Phone 2 is going to be in. So it's going to be on June 27th, 2025. The first movie opened January 2022, grossed $180 million worldwide on a $12 million budget. So that is why we're getting a sequel to that.
I like that they're going the name, like they're kind of keeping the trend with like
the robot thing.
Yeah, 2.0. I mean, that's kind of something slick it has going for it, I guess.
If I'm not wrong, I think it was the most critically. It's close. It has a 94% on Rotten Tomatoes. So in 2022, it was one of the best reviewed horror movies to come out in 2022. I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. I don't know if you saw it, but
not yet. I want to, but
yeah. And then there's other Blumhouse movies coming out. The Woman in the Yard. They all don't have plot details yet, but that'll be out March 28th, 2025. And Drop from director Christopher Landon, who did the Happy Death Day movies. That'll be out April 11th, 2025. Blumhouse and Universal has a really busy year of horror movies coming out. So yeah, glad I could like blow through all those really quick for you. And you're like I'm not like overly excited about any of these, but
nice to have some horror on the schedule in the next year or two, I guess, to look forward to. But I'm not really excited for anything in the way that I'm excited for Robert Eggers' Nosferatu. So none of these even come close to that.
Yeah,
so
that's gonna be fun.
Yeah, and or Longlegs. I gotta put that out there too.
Yeah,
holy shit, am I ever excited for that?
Yeah, that's gonna be one of the first trailers we're talking about. We have one little last, well, I guess a couple little things. Cillian Murphy is gonna officially be in 28 Years Later. That news was like dropped in a, I guess, kind of an earnings call with Tim Rothman from Sony. They asked him if he was gonna be in it, and Tim Rothman said that yes, and we're gonna utilize him in a very surprising way. But that's all he said about how Cillian Murphy will be in them, and he kind of implied that he's going to be in all three of them. But you know,
Spoilers.
At least we're getting. I know why he doesn't die. At least we're getting him in there in some capacity, because like I think some people were worried post Oscar that he'd be like, oh, I don't really want to do it. But he has a really good relationship with Danny Boyle, and it was one of his first big movies too. True. So that's probably why he's coming back.
Oddly enough, like I'm not over the moon. Like I'm cool with him being at least in one of them, but like his character in 28 Days Later isn't like your typical hero that's going to pioneer a whole trilogy of movies about, you know, surviving the zombie apocalypse. It feels like his story and like the people that make it to the end of that movie with him feels like a very small, contained survivor story of a broader picture. And I don't feel like we need to follow. I think there's a lot of stories that are characters that we could invent for these sequels that would be just as interesting to explore. So returning to old characters, like I'm cool because I love Cillian Murphy and I'd like to see his character pop up again, but like I don't really need to see him lead 3 sequel movies. I don't know if you feel differently.
I do. I mean, I do. I mean, I don't feel. I kind of like that we're getting a new cast. We already know about Aaron Taylor Johnson and Jodie Comer and Ray Fiennes. Jack McConnell. I'm cool with that. But I would almost want him. Do I want him in more than a cameo capacity in the first movie? I actually wouldn't mind if he was in the first one a decent amount, and then they take over for like the next few.
But is this news confirmed? Is it going to be? Because I know he was teased as being a cameo only, but
right. Well, it's interesting because his people haven't confirmed it, but Sony, someone that works for Sony confirmed it. Probably wasn't supposed to, but but there you go. Before we speak on these trailers really quick, we talked about Megapolis a little bit on the show, and it premiered at the Cannes Film Festival, and the reactions are all over the place.
Oh my god! I was saying I haven't seen a movie this divisive in I don't know how long.
I just want to read some reactions are something of a mess, unruly, makes Jupiter Ascending look like a masterpiece.
Oh boy!
Exaggerated and drawn to pretension like a moth to a flame. Almost as bad as Room, and we're not talking about the one with Brie Larson. We're talking about the
Wiseau.
But other people have said that it transcends genre. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. They give him credit for basically making bold, swift moves and having the guts to do that. Everyone's still on the fence about whether or not this can sell well here. I know you were excited for it, based on all these reactions that are really from one end of the spectrum to the next. How do you feel about it now?
So like I said, this for 2 years now has been on my most anticipated movies of the year list. I gotta say, it's a little discouraging hearing how split it is, the negative stuff, because I take that with a grain of salt. I'll make up my own mind when I see the movie, but I take, there's a lot of people whose authority I trust that have seen it and so the volume of people that have problems with this movie is impossible to ignore. So something tells me, and then you hear the behind the scenes stuff, the allegations that have now since come out about Francis Ford Coppola. True or not, it's there's thing I can see it. I don't want to I'm not trying to play judge here to Francis Ford Coppola, wonderful filmmaker, one of the living greats. But all the allegations aside, just some of the crew members that shared their experiences working on the movie, questioning if he's ever even made a Hollywood movie before, that is very alarming.
They're he didn't have big kind of scenes in this that they said weren't really mapped out, and that he would be in his trailer for hours on end, and then he would be smoking weed in his trailer, and then there's a whole issue with the female extra sitting on his lap and kissing people. It sounds more creepy, uncle vibe rather than him being a predator. But
right. You're right.
I think they were trying to spin that into him being that, and you can kind of tell when you're reading something. You're no, it might just be grandpa that doesn't know any better, rather than
and that's the way too. Then there's the thing that alarms me almost the most is people saying that because Francis Ford Coppola has been kind of parroting Martin Scorsese and his criticism of the reliance of CGI and whatnot in modern filmmaking. But then somebody said he's a hypocrite for that because he relied a whole lot on CGI for this movie. I'm oh, I don't like the sound of that. So I'm very much intrigued. I think this conversation around the movies got me definitely a little bit more intrigued to go see it. More, I guess I'm not expecting to come out of it like I thought I would be until, its premiere at Cannes. So I'm very intrigued. I think this is a good thing because I'm not going to go in there with the highest expectations like I might have otherwise. So I think this kind of humbled my anticipation a little bit in a good way. But I'm very excited to see it. Again, like you mentioned off camera, I was wondering when it's slated to come out, not realizing it still doesn't have distribution. It very well might come down to him actually having to pay for the distribution of this movie. So time will tell when I'll even get the chance to see it, or you and I both. But it's been quite the journey getting this movie made, to say the least. I think this could be the subject of a movie in the future, or a documentary at least.
Yep. And there is someone actually in that big, because I had to pick apart that article to cover it for MovieWeb, but in that big sprawling article, there was someone on set making a behind the scenes about the making of the movie.
Nice. That's good.
So hopefully we get that, and maybe they could turn that into a movie. That might be actually better than what we're getting. But I mean, he's such a veteran and great filmmaker. So I'm hoping for the best. So right now it has a 52% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it could have been worse for something that's divisive as it is. So who knows? We'll see. But now we have trailers, and we haven't talked about this trailer at all on the show. The trailers before this one, there have been a lot of tiny little buzzy teaser trailers for Longlegs, and when I mean teaser, they have been really short and to the point. but enough to
As
be
a
like,
teaser should be. Yeah.
but enough to get you to be like, what is this movie? And they finally released a full trailer that, despite being like over 2 minutes, it's still like doesn't really give it still has creepy vibes. It does reveal a bit more, but it
Right.
maintains the kind of creep, like the secretive kind of creepy vibes are associated with
Yeah.
the trailer. What have you thought of all the looks at it, and then finally this longer one?
This, by no stretch of the imagination, has been undoubtedly, I think, the best marketing of a horror movie I've seen in maybe ever. The marketing behind this movie, and I know Neon gets the credit for it, it's being their movie and everything, has been exactly what it needs to be. Like, I think this is seems like straightforward. This is like kind of traditional movie marketing, like from the days of old, but just goes to show why it works so well. Teasers actually at teaser length, not giving away the whole plot, not even showing its huge A-list cast member that a lot of people will probably be going to see this movie for. We still have not, across various trailers and now an official trailer length, seen Nicolas Cage yet, which we only hear what seems to be the creepiest Nicolas Cage voice I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
I just commend the marketing team behind Longlegs so much, and the trailer genuinely freaks me out. I don't get freaked out that much. Like, this has got me.
It was pretty. It was unsettling.
Some of those quick editing, like jump scare shots, even in the trailer, again with no context behind them. Perfect. Like, I could not be more excited for a movie right now, and I didn't even know this movie existed at the beginning of the year when we were going over our list.
I would have probably included it if I don't.
And then to find out, it's being directed by the son of Anthony Perkins, who played Norman Bates in one of the infamous horror movies. Like, it's got so much going behind it. Cam and I have plans to watch his earlier movie. I think it was an A24. I'm not sure if it was an A24, but like a good like indie production horror movie, The Black Coat's Daughter. That's what I'm planning on watching in anticipation of this, and I'm very excited to see that because I've not seen any of Osgood Perkins' movies before. But I can't say good enough things. I'm really just hoping this movie lives up to the hype. It seems like it's going to be like Hereditary level influential and terrifying, and that's been quite a few years since we've had something on that level. So I got a lot of high hopes for this movie, to say the least.
Mine are pretty high too, and I know it's not good to like get lost in hype.
I'm scared for myself.
Yeah. But like Neon has done a great job promoting it, and honestly, it's a masterclass in how you should promote horror movies. Or even all movies, like show a bit more restraint with what you're gonna.
Restraint. Exactly, that's a great word.
But for those that want to know what it's about, the film focuses on Lee Harker, a new FBI agent who has been assigned to an unsolved case of a serial killer. As the investigation becomes more complicated with occult evidence uncovered, Harker realizes a personal link to the killer and must act quickly to prevent another family murder. This movie comes out on July 12th. And like I said, within a week of Maxine. So a very good week of horror.
July 12th. I'm just marking that down so I know when
so you know when
to watch The Black Coat's Daughter. Because I might go see this Thursday night previews, honestly, if it comes to my local theater, like in Fredericton here. Like, I live in a capital city of a pretty small have-not Canadian province, and due to that, we have a couple theaters like within like 30-40 minutes, but one big one, our Cineplex, and we get the big blockbuster movies for sure, but this is a movie where I'm not positive we're going to get it.
Did you get Immaculate? Because that was another Neon.
I believe so.
Release.
Yeah, I didn't see it,
you might.
But like, I don't think we're getting In a Violent Nature, which is, I know, probably a much more smaller movie.
Which is rude because it's a Canadian horror film.
I know, but like, I'm under no illusion that like this is a guaranteed. So, but like, I live only an hour or two from a couple other bigger cities, like in New Brunswick, like population wise, where they have bigger theaters, more screens. Like, I would travel to see this, and I've done it before, and I will do it again. And this is one that I'm hyped enough to make the effort to go see.
Well, I'll send you In a Violent Nature tonight, so at least you have.
Oh, I appreciate that, because that's something I'm really looking forward to getting in here too, and I'm keeping my eye on. Actually, on that note, has it like had its theatrical debut yet?
No, May 31st. So
okay.
I
might wait and see if it comes, but
watched it last week. They want it's weird. I think they want to like stagger out the reviews, because like in the email they said the review they wanted it out on May 27th, so I have to hold it
Okay.
the full review, but I did put something on Twitter, like a little blurb. I thought it was enjoyable.
Nice. Okay, I'm really looking forward to that.
It is very artsy. It is very artsy, but I like, and the kills are crazy. There's one that's like ridiculous.
Can you tell me anything about the gore level in this movie?
It's like pretty high, and there's one kill. I mean, I don't buy the whole like, unless you're talking about The Exorcist in the 70s. I never buy the whole like, oh, this kill was so gruesome that someone threw up during the screening. They were trying to say that about this one.
Okay.
But the kill is impressive and it's very gory, and you should just never do yoga in the woods is all I'll say.
Oh Jesus. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Yeah. My excitement level for this movie is very high as well. I appreciate you being able to send that to me. I would love to see it on the big screen, but I'm even less anticipating that it'll be in my local theater than Longlegs will be. But yeah, gotta see Longlegs on the big screen. I can't wait. It feels like it's going to be that Hereditary level experience for me. I'm just hoping I do not fall victim to the overhype, but everything is falling into place. But with that being said, enough of the glazing. We got a new Bad Boys Ride or Die. It got its final trailer. I think I've seen the final trailer at when I saw Rise of the Planet of the Apes in theaters last week, but I'm not sure if this is a different trailer than the one I've been seeing.
You mean Kingdom?
Kingdom. Yes, thank you. Go back to 2011 here.
No, I think that probably was the final trailer because I think that's when they released it.
And it
looks fun.
It does look fun. I've not seen any of the movies, and they never really intrigued me. But like, I would watch them. Wow. Not seen any of them. Yeah, no, straight up haven't seen any. I would check them out in anticipation of this movie. It'll really just come down to like if I make the time in my movie watching schedule to do it. But it looks fun and looks like shot really well.
And it had its first screening last week, and it was really positive. Will Smith and Martin Lawrence were there. It seems like I think Will Smith is kind of back. I think that people are. I think it was very smart to do a movie like this where everyone loves the franchise. And
I had the same thought when I was watching it. Like
that gets you back in the good graces with the people. And
smart play. It's like it never happened.
Very smart move. Yeah. And I know it looks like I actually like the last Bad Boys as well. It made a lot of money. It's the highest grossing of the Bad Boys films.
Damn.
Probably would have made even more money. It came out January 2020, so it was already making good money, and then COVID happened and shut that down a little bit.
Is that when did it come out? 2021?
No, the third one came out in 2020, and then January 2020, and then like the second one I think came out. Yeah, the second one came out in the early 2000s. There was a big gap. And the first one came out in 95.
Michael Bay didn't do the third one, did he?
No, he directed the first two though.
First two, right?
The guys who directed the last two, they were also a part of that Batgirl movie that got shelved, but they did a good job with the third one, and this one looks like they're doing a pretty good job with it too.
I can't believe that came out 4 years ago. I literally thought this was like only a couple years ago. That's weird. I'm just having like a.
I mean, time kind of flew. I mean, and then 2020 was a blur, man.
Yeah. Absolutely, it was. And now, who's directing the fourth? This ride.
The same guys who did the third one. Yeah, they're back.
Nice.
They're directing this one, and the cast includes Will Smith, Martin Lawrence, Vanessa Hudgens, Alexander Ludwig, Tasha Smith, Eric Dane, and Tiffany Haddish also has a cameo in this movie too.
Okay.
So yeah, it should be. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah,
and it opens on June 7th, and my brother's very excited for it. He's been asking me when's the early screening for it.
Okay, nice. Like, he wants to go with you.
Like they're staggering them out, so we'll see whenever it comes. But yeah, it should be a fun. I mean, I think this could have been a proper kickoff in May than the Fall Guy was. It felt. I mean, June's a good time for this movie to come out, but I think audience would have been more receptive to it. It's also a proven IP as well, so
true that
helps. Yeah. The next trailer for Every Girl I Know, and I actually didn't know the premise of this book until I posted the trailer, and then I sent it to my friend Kayla because she's like, I love the book, and I sent the trailer. She's like, I can't wait.
I'm sure you could have guessed with just the title alone, like, huh?
Yeah.
But Colleen Hoover has this stranglehold on like female-oriented like relationship drama novels. Everyone I know that I saw, like whether it be on Instagram stories or like when I'm in a public place and I'm seeing people read, or I'm at a beach or something, like everyone's got a copy of Colleen Hoover's latest book, and that's the only reason that I knew about what It Ends With Us was all about. Not like intricate plot details or anything, but yeah, no, it was quite the phenomenon as far as like novels go. So only a matter of time that it got the film treatment, but.
Yeah, your mom actually liked she
liked
on
did she?
Instagram. She liked on Instagram when I posted it on the Back to the Blockbuster.
She is a bookworm, my mother. I don't know that she read this or anything, but I wouldn't be surprised if she had either.
So Blake Lively's in it, and it's directed by Justin Baldoni, who's also in the movie. It's adapted, like I said, from Colleen Hoover's novel. And in the movie, Lily overcomes a traumatic childhood to embark on a new life. A chance meeting with a neurosurgeon sparks a connection. But Lily begins to see sides of him that remind her of her parents' relationship. I guess there's like an abuse angle in this.
That looks that way.
Some women were actually pointing out after the trailer was released, because I think when I was talking to Kayla about it, it really felt like when she was describing it to me that it felt a little romanticized. So when I found out there was an abuse angle in it, I was like, you guys are making it sound like it's this big epic kind of love story, and like and she's like, oh no, it's kind of complicated. I was like, could have led with that. I mean, it sounds a little darker than it seems. The trailer was fine. I like Blake Lively.
I like Blake Lively too. Trailer though, oh my god, like opposite of Longlegs here, where just like you are seeing everything play out in this
single.
We got a 3-minute version of the movie.
Yeah.
Like leave some suspense. Like I already know how it's gonna end. Maybe I could probably. I would hedge a bet honestly, and feel pretty confident in it. But then again, it is like it seems like mostly your typical sort of romance story too. Like anyone probably could have guessed. It's not like it's breaking the wheel here or reinventing the wheel rather. But yeah, I mean, it looks interesting. I know I won't see it, but. Not up my alley exactly, but that being said, I do like Blake Lively. I do like good romance stories.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, I wonder if your girlfriend would make you go see it, but like maybe does she even know the book?
I'm not sure. When the book
will make me go see this.
Yeah,
and I was like, I'll just be busy that weekend.
I think this there you go. That's not too bad. When this book was like all the rage was before my current girlfriend and I were together, so I have no idea. Yeah. She does read. She's in the middle of a book right now, but we've never chatted it. Maybe I would love to go to the theaters with her because that's something we haven't done yet. So it doesn't really matter what it is. I'd go.
Wait, like ever?
We haven't been to a movie I've made her sat through many movies with me so far, but never gone to the theater together yet.
Oh wow, that's crazy, and that's like your thing.
Yeah, I know. Exactly.
Like you end up going with your best friend instead. But I guess that works out. So.
Yeah, I mean that's our shared interest. So I always have somebody to go to with. But yeah, we both lead busy lives, so it's hard for us to both set that time aside. But
Blake Lively is known for. I mean, she was in the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, and those are based on books, and they did really well. And
I did not know
the Age of Adeline. I think the Age of Adeline is the original story, but that did really well. She's been able to do like kind of female centric movies on top of like doing stuff like The Town, which is like fun role for her.
Oh yeah,
she's a good actress.
Great in that. Yeah, absolutely.
I think she's a really good actress. But this screams like take your mom and your sister and your niece and all your girlfriends to go see it. I didn't think the trailer was, and it doesn't look like a bad movie. It just looks like I know where it's headed.
Exactly. The trailer's fall, not really like the movie. Yeah, I don't think.
But it comes out on August 9th for everyone that's interested. The next trailer was also really long. I mean, I don't have any. Where I stand with Wicked. Did you say you saw it? Did you see the
saw the Broadway musical back in 2016 and like really enjoyed it, having not really had that much experience with like plays at that time. But that being said, like I can't really say that like my enjoyment of that is going to transfer to like my anticipation for this, because I don't even remember the Wicked story. Like that's the only time I ever engaged with that IP before. I still haven't even seen The Wizard of Oz, so I couldn't even really tell you the long and short about what happens. There's things about the Wicked trailer that I thought looked interesting, and there's things about it that I did not like. I'm interested to hear what your thoughts are, and if like you're anticipating, if you're a Wizard of Oz fan or where you
I do like the Wizard of Oz. I've never seen Wicked on Broadway, and by the way, guys and girls, when I tell them I haven't seen that on Broadway, there's like a collective like gasp from them because I guess like it was such a huge, it still is a huge deal for Broadway musical, aficionados.
Right.
I just never saw it. And the trailer looks fine. I think this is another example. It's not as guilty of this as other recent movie musical trailers because they do play two of like the big songs from the musical. I do know them by name.
Oh, okay, nice.
I do know them by name, but it also there isn't a ton of blatant like this is a movie musical going on.
But
and
you're right.
I think it's silly to kind of still hide that from, and it's something like this. Like I think the people you're selling Wicked to, like you don't need to sell it to the uninitiated. Like you're selling it to the people that love it already. So I don't know, show them singing like full on.
Exactly.
But this is a trend with these trailers now. And visually, I'm all over the place. I think there are certain things in there that look really great visually, and there's other stuff that looks
this is what I was getting at. Overdone. Looks like there might be like the costumes and makeup look really well done, and I'll give the production value like that. But like then some of your bigger sequences and set pieces look like CGI. It looks so digital and clean and like could have been done so much better practically, I think. And I'm not saying that I know what every single shot, how it's composed, if it's practical or CGI. It just gives that appearance, at least after watching that trailer, which I'm like, this really would have been a great movie to splurge on practical effects and just really lean into that. And I feel like it's not going that way. It just looked very clean and had that digital look to it, which I'm not crazy about. And the other thing is that, and again, I'm like kind of like saying this cautiously, and I might be incorrect in saying this because I don't really remember how the actual story from the play plays out, but after watching this trailer, it seems like it is just following this trend that's been set in a lot of villain origin stories in the last, like, I'll say like 5-10 years, where it's taking a previously well agreed upon villainous character and giving them this tragic backstory and low key making them like almost like a hero or a tragic character.
Yeah.
And I just like, I don't know, can we not have heroes and villains anymore? Like, why do we need to sympathize? Like,
why can't people just be evil? Some people are evil, some people are good.
Like, I look at Cruella as a big example of that, and that's just, a drop in the bucket of different ones that we've seen. But I don't know. And again, like this might be a bad example because I don't remember how the original story, if that is how it's portrayed, but it looks like we're getting more of that. And I'm like, I don't know. I just like a good old fashioned good versus evil story. Maybe the story is more complex than that, and that's fine. But that's just kind of like one of the thoughts that I had after watching it. Is like, is it kind of just following in the footsteps laid out by this current trend? I don't know.
Right. And I will say this to the cast, Cynthia Erivo, Ariana Grande, Michelle Yeoh, Jeff Goldblum, Jonathan Bailey, Peter Dinklage. It's a good cast. Yeah, I'm all excited for that. John M. Chu as a director is all over the place. So I loved In the Heights, which is another movie musical adaptation. Melissa Barrera is actually in it, and she was very good in that.
Okay.
Before Scream. But then he also did Crazy Rich Asians, which I also enjoyed. But then he did Jim and the Holograms. He also
directed that one.
He also directed G.I. Joe Retaliation.
He also this is pretty eclectic.
Step Up 3D and Step Up to the Streets. So he's all over the place.
Holy,
but I guess he can handle, like, those are all they have in common. Some of those are like dancey, music. There's a lot going on with that. So this is probably his biggest endeavor. And by the way, this is Wicked. They're splitting this up into 2 movies. Part 1 comes out on November 27th of this year, and Part 2 comes out on November 27th, 2025. I heard there's like so many numbers that they didn't want to cut, and that's why they're. I'm hoping this is more of a creative decision and not let's make money decision, but we'll see. And it's actually more of a teaser trailer. You're cordially invited. It was a teaser trailer that it's going straight to streaming. And like a lot of people, when this trailer came out, it's a really short one. It was with Will Ferrell and Reese Witherspoon. A lot of fun, there's a lot of cursing, a lot of stuff. Like it seems like it's gonna be like a fun kind of.
I like the premise as a comedy premise for sure.
Yeah. For people that don't know, a bride and her father, Will Ferrell, discover their dream wedding venue has been double booked for another bride and her wedding planner's sister, played by Reese Witherspoon, with hilarious consequences, according to the press release from Amazon.
Okay.
Um, this should have gotten a theatrical release. I mean, it's weird that they don't give these movies a chance anymore and they send them straight to streaming. Like, I feel like in the post Anyone But You, where that movie opened really low and then laid it out and made a lot of money,
Yeah.
maybe we should give these movies a shot in theaters more,
I was
but
I figured you'd bring it up. I was going to reference it in case you didn't, like Anyone But You. I feel though like this decision was probably already made before that movie's
or that
success. Is that fair to
no,
say?
it
Do
could
you
be,
think?
it could be,
Because I bet you if it was a matter of a few months, that might have been the play. Because I think this would
yeah.
do well in theaters. I got to say, like I'm glad it was only a teaser. I didn't realize it was only a teaser after seeing it because I didn't crack a laugh until the alligator scene at the end
Oh
of the trailer.
yeah.
I thought that was quite amusing and like
yeah.
yeah, so I'm all for that. I'd like to see a fuller length trailer with maybe a few more laughs and
Yeah.
gut busters, but we'll see. You know how I am with comedy. It's not like that's not
Yeah,
me
you
saying
and me
anything
both,
new.
man. Yeah,
Yeah.
completely. And this comes out January 30th, 2025 on Prime Video. We have two more trailers for you. Twisters released a second trailer. I'm saying this right now. I think after Deadpool and Wolverine, I think this might be the biggest movie of the summer.
Summer? Yeah, I'm really
Yeah.
liking the trailers for this
It
for what
has
we're
like an
seeing here.
old school, like, since I love like the kind of throwback to like old disaster movies. Um,
Yes.
someone showed like someone posted a picture of like the soundtrack album for this movie too. Like
Oh,
that seems more like a throwback to like back in the day where like you would make like a soundtrack album for a movie like this. Um,
that's a trend I wish never went away.
Wait, yeah.
Yeah,
The effects look really good too. Like, I mean, that's what I don't know if you've seen Twister, but like
I've
for something
not.
that came out in 1996, it's still the effects look amazing. So it is a really solid, and it kind of kicked off a new era of disaster movies because it started with that, and you got Independence Day, and then so on after
Right.
Twister came out. A movie that Steven Spielberg was going to direct, and then he gave it to John DeBont, the first one, who directed Speed. So like he had a
Okay. Well,
good track record.
Amblin Entertainment, Steven Spielberg's production
Yeah,
company, is still, helping out with this movie, so that's awesome. Um, I gotta say, Twister, like the original from '96, is on my summer calendar, my watch list for
nice.
in anticipation of this because I definitely want to go see this. This looks like a good, like you said, a classic disaster movie, but also just a good traditional summer blockbuster type of movie, which I'm all for. Looks great. Again, I also think it's guilty of giving us too much in the trailer, but that
Yeah,
nonetheless, the trailer's been pretty engaging. I'm excited for Glenn Powell. I've been, really like enjoying his rising star lately. Is it Daisy Edgar Jones starring opposite him?
yeah. She was
Yeah,
in
I
that.
haven't seen her in anything, but
That what was that? It came out last year. It's based on a book. Something about the crawdads seeing.
Where the
I forgot.
Crawdads
Oh, yeah,
Sing. That's
yeah, yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
It made a lot of money. That
Yeah,
another book that women love. that
exactly.
they supported it. And Anthony Ramos is in it. The guy, I forget his name, but the guy who played the Fry's Electronics employee in Nope, he's in this too as well. So
I don't remember.
that'll be pretty fun. It looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I'm excited for it.
absolutely.
And I actually love the poster, the second poster that they came out with, which looks like there's just like one big fire tornado behind them. I know
Mm,
it's just all debris from like whatever. And everyone's like, why are they looking straight ahead? And like the cool thing about that poster is they're looking straight ahead because in the side view mirror, you can see that they're looking at a twister that's like right in front of them too.
okay.
So like the poster is like really fun. I think they're really leaning into it just being like a fun
Yeah,
disaster movie. And
I'm all for it, honestly.
I think financially it's going to be the biggest movie after Deadpool comes out, and they
Okay.
come out within a week of each other.
Ooh.
So this comes out on July 19th, 2024, or this year. So yeah, I think there's room for both though to succeed.
Yeah, I like your early prediction that of like who's going to take the summer box office crown. I think that's pretty neat and interesting to like do it that early. Like, I think that's a kind of a fun idea. I haven't really
Yeah,
looked that far ahead to see, but I don't think you're wrong at all in guessing that it'll be probably between those two. I'm really hoping Alien Romulus will do a big dent at the box
yep,
office, but I don't think it's got that hype behind it yet. Maybe a little bit later, and it's also August, so we'll see. But
yeah,
Deadpool, I think it'll definitely have a strong outing.
yeah. And the last trailer we had, there's a new trailer for A Quiet Place Day One. a little longer than the other trailer that came out. It seems like you're still seeing a lot of the same imagery in the
Yeah, it
second
wasn't that
trailer.
different other than having some dialogue in it.
Yeah. There's like the more dialogue between her and this person at the store that she's at with the cat. Like, but like a lot of it would seem like it's the same things that we saw. I still think it's interesting. I do like. It's so weird because like A Quiet Place was a really cool horror movie and didn't think it needed a sequel, but then we got one and that one was pretty solid too. And I don't mind them expanding the universe. I don't know how much more you do after this prequel, but I still think it looks good. And like, I mean, there is something to be said about like a movie that makes, I mean, you're supposed to be quiet in the theater, but I remember watching those first two movies in the movie theater and like there is like a weird hushed silence from everyone in the theater while you're
feel like you're there in that universe with them and you can't make a peep, which is pretty effective. Again, guilty, showing way too much. There's some awesome kills that unfortunately are now ruined for this movie for those that have seen the trailer, which fucking sucks. But there is one awesome shot from this trailer of like, I think it's a helicopter overlooking New York City, and you just see what looks like at least tens of the, what do they call them? Like something angels.
I know what you're talking about, but
Death Angels, I think they're called. Just scaling huge skyscrapers and buildings and whatnot. That was a really, really cool shot from that trailer that I admired. I'm all for it. My excitement. I really like the first one. I liked the second one, but even like you just said, like I'm not like clamoring for more necessarily, but I've enjoyed what the trailers for day one have given us so far, and I'll make time to see it for sure. When is the release date of this one?
This comes out June 28th. And what I will say too, even though I do like the kind of isolated atmosphere of the first movie and even the second movie, the idea of seeing this kind of happening in this kind of huge kind of metropolitan area, like the start of it, that could be scary too in its own right, I guess.
A lot higher body count, I think, coming.
So I'm excited to see that. And Joseph Quinn's in this too. He's also going to be in Fantastic Four. He's having a pretty big.
True that.
And Peter Nyong'o as well. I know. I think it'll be good. I'm just, I know they want to make another Quiet Place project after this, and I just don't want them to keep beating a dead horse.
Yeah.
at this point. And we are finally at box office predictions. First, we have to talk about last week. We were predicting The Strangers Chapter 1. Full disclosure, saw it. It is exactly what we thought
we were feared it might be. Yeah,
Jackson didn't see it, but it is a beat for beat almost remake of the original movie. Even though the press notes say like the director's like, "Oh, it's not a prequel, it's not a sequel, it's not a reboot." But then he followed that up with like, "But we want to see what happened the day after the 2008 film, so that's what this movie is."
That would make it a sequel.
Is it? But like it's trying to be a bunch of things at once. I don't know if this is like the sad state of horror right now. They are very cheap to make, and I think I said last week that this movie has a $25 million budget. It actually has an $8.5 million budget. What is not clear is if this is $8.5 million for all three because they shot them at once, or if it's going to be separate. But it has the biggest horror movie opening of the year, $11.8 million. This weekend, it debuted in third. I went too high. I think you got it right.
Yes, again. You went with 14. I went with 10. Yeah, but that's pretty close. Only 0.5 off from being like split evenly between us. So I'll take that. I'll take that victory.
Officially the biggest horror movie of the year so far, 11.8 million, just ahead of Night Swim with 11.7 million opening weekend.
Really?
Just keep in mind, by this point last year, we had Megan that opened to 30 million in January. You had Scream 6 that opened to 44.1 million in March, and then you had Evil Dead Rise that opened to 24 million, I think, in April. So while these are good opening weekends for cheaply made horror movies, I think we need some more to come out that are good. I think that's, not to throw Abigail in the mix. I think Abigail was good. I don't know why that didn't hit with people. But I said that to you also if you want to watch it as well, because it was pretty good. But yeah, it's. I feel like The Strangers is gonna fall like a ton of bricks, and I guess I don't know. I don't have much interest in seeing what they do with the second and third one.
No,
I actually heard a rumor from someone with fully and pretty good authority that The Strangers will barely be in the second chapter. So
yeah, that's exactly the direction I wanted that to go.
Yeah.
So tell me this though, Gaius. Do we find out how the strangers became the strangers, like the tagline of the trailer suggested?
No, you don't. So I guess that's what
don't.
I guess you're gonna explore that in chapter 2 and 3, because it's supposed to be like they say they want to do this like kind of psychological, like what happens when you survive this, and like and it's psychological for them because like they're going after the one that got away.
Okay.
They're trying to make it much deeper than it probably should be. Madeline Petch from Riverdale is very good in it though.
Okay.
It's not her, nothing to do with her is the problem. She was very effective, and the guy who played her boyfriend, I think his name is Froy Gutierrez, he was also good, not as strong as her, but good. It's just hard when you're watching scenes in this movie that you know are from the original and they did it better. So you're watching like a carbon copy of something that didn't work that well. Yeah.
Such a strange project.
I know. And the movie If opened at number 1 this weekend, $33.7 million opening weekend. There was a big debate because it didn't open below tracking. Tracking was 40 million, but this feels like a good opening for an original kids movie. It's not based on any other IP or anything. Reviews are really mixed, but it has an A cinema score, so it might have good legs. It did have a $120 million budget.
I don't understand how cinema score works at all, because like I heard nothing but negative things about this, and it gets an A cinema score. It's got a 48 Metascore, which is like what I put a lot of my weight behind. What's it rocking for a Rotten Tomato score?
I think it's like in the 52 range. Okay. And by the way, I've never been approached leaving my theater to rank something for cinema score. I don't know when they do it. I think it is opening night, but I don't know what theaters they choose to poll audiences and stuff. But I don't know anyone that personally that has been asked to like vote on opening night for that. But they carry a lot of weight. So it has a 47% on Rotten Tomatoes right now.
Okay, that's in line with what I'd heard about this movie from all the various outlets that posted stuff about it.
The audience score is a little better at 87%. And then you were mentioning too with Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes that is doing fairly decent. I mean, it dropped 50% or a little bit more than 50% this weekend, but that was to be expected after a big opening weekend. It's made like I think 287 worldwide, probably will clear 400 by the end of this run.
That's great, and it crossed $100 million domestic box office here in just a couple weeks, so that's pretty impressive too. And what was the budget of that movie again? I know we chatted about it earlier, but it was like pretty modest for it.
It's pretty modest for that movie.
Was it like 160 or was it lower?
I think I think it was somewhere in there. I'll look it up again, but I think it was somewhere in there, which is not bad. But just like briefly before we predict Furiosa, people are thinking that the box office is in a rough spot just because we had the Fall Guy not do that well, and then we, like we said, that's coming out on digital tomorrow. It's been out for not even a full 3 weeks, and that I feel like that kneecaps your movie. I mean, I guess their train of thought is like it's not going to make much more money in theaters, so let's quickly get it home. But I think if audiences know that, hey, I can watch this movie at home in 2 or 3 weeks, they might not go see it in theaters.
I think they definitely will. There's absolutely a pocket of movie watchers that aren't going to take the time to go see something in theaters if they know it's coming, or if they come to expect, even if it's not, like if it's the case like this where they it wasn't really announced how quick it would come to video on demand, but it's more of a spontaneous thing. That might soon become the norm, and people might start anticipating that to happen, which will keep them out of the theater, which I think we're already starting to see that.
We are starting to see it, and a lot of people are commenting. They were saying a lot of things need to change. I don't know if your movie theaters are like this, but some of the ones in LA, there are a lot of people that get on their phones. They bring their kids. When you tell someone to be quiet because they're talking or they're on their phone, it almost starts a fight. No one really polices those kind of things. Yeah, it's bad over here at certain places.
Dude, are you kidding me?
Yes, and a lot of people have been pointing that out. I've been going on social media, like what prevents you from going to the movies, and there are the normal stuff too. Like it's expensive if you want to take your whole family and all that. Yeah. But a lot of people have pointed to movie theater etiquette as being a huge problem.
Really?
That's why they rather watch at home and not go to the theater, spend all that money, and then have it be ruined by someone else who clearly doesn't care if they're they're acting like they're at their house rather than
I would have no qualms if I'm at a movie that I'm anticipating, like I've been putting I'm going out of my way to see something that I'm really excited for and I care about it. If it's a good theatrical experience, I'm not the type of person to say this, but like I've been in situations where I've told people like shut the fuck up, like stop talking, like you like or like never.
I can't even see you saying that, man.
I've never worded it that way, but like this is how I'm feeling in my head. But like
yeah,
it doesn't last long, especially like me and Cam, who like are huge into movies. This is a lot of what our day-to-day conversations are about. We are there for that experience more so than a lot of other people. We don't, if you want to sit there on your phone and talk, do that at home. Like we're just talking about how it's even more accessible to do that at home these days. Don't be bringing that to the theater. And the thing is, though, it's not that common of a problem, at least where I'm at. So that's why it's people get called out if they have poor movie theater etiquette. Put it a lot nicer for sure. But there's been ignorant people that have been told to absolutely, rein it in, or, I would have no problem calling somebody out, like, because it's not a rampant problem. If it was every theatrical experience I'm having, that's the norm, then I would probably, that might be something that would keep me away from the theater too, if it was rampant, but far from it over here. I'm sorry to hear that that's your experience over there. I never would have guessed that. I did not know that was, I know there's poor movie theater etiquette all over the world, and I'm not even exempt from that here too, but it's not nearly that common. It might be 1 in every 10 movies I see in theaters. There might be somebody that just has poor movie theater etiquette, and it's usually never phones. It's always the younger crowd though that are doing it. It's the teenagers and preteens. Like Night Swim, when I saw that in theaters, it was a pretty packed theater, and I went with a bunch of buddies, like more so for jokes. But there were some teens in there on their phones, and I didn't really care because I wasn't enjoying that movie. So it wasn't. If anything, it was just kind of like something for me to like divert my attention a little bit. But if like I remember an experience I had seeing Licorice Pizza, and there was a very low audience turnout, so like which is great. I'm like borderline seeing that movie alone, and there was a person in the theater that was narrating the movie as if they were at home on their couch, like reacting out loud to like what characters are saying and doing, and we were like, hey, cut that out right now. So
I mean, when I saw Challengers, the guy next to me and my brother like he wore flip-flops, so I guess he only had bare feet, but he like took his flip-flops off and like reclined in his seat and like propped his feet up. Like there's like a little railing to like put your feet up where we were sitting, so his bare feet were out like right next to us, and I was like, you're not at home.
No, like,
I don't know, like it's so weird. And another common thing that's happening to a lot of people, and I think it's mostly innocent sometimes the way people post it, but a lot of people, because they're excited, like I know I saw people that went to go see like the Spider-Man re-release that they've been doing every Monday. Some people were recording the last few moments of the movie on their phones to then post on their social media.
Okay, that's not illegal.
It is illegal, and it's I mean, you're basically pirating the movie. Even though it's only a little, even though it's only a little bit of it, but your phone is lit up while you're recording things sometimes. I mean, like it's just, that's why some people are like, I have friends that don't know that, and they'll take out their phone to text, and I'm like, hey, you can't text in here either. Like, why? I mean, I'm not on my phone, but your shit like illuminates when it is in something that dark. So like,
exactly. I'll forgive someone that has a ringtone go off because they just forgot, and like usually people fumble for it and turn it off really quick. That's no big deal. It's annoying, but it's not like they did it on purpose. But like someone right beside me is openly texting and like keyboard clicking and full brightness, I would give them a nudge for sure and be like, hey, do you mind? Like, but I'll even check my phone just to see I haven't missed an emergency call or something, and then put it away instantly. I get people have lives even when you're in the theater, but that is just ridiculous. So let me ask you this. So Cineplex is great. Like we have some pretty good, if not lengthy and repetitive, pre-show, like screening, like ads and little side gigs and stuff that they put on there. And every single time they'll work something into it where it's like, okay, remember to turn off your phones, don't talk, don't be a Tommy texter, all that sort of thing. Is there anything like that with like at the theaters you go visit?
AMC has that. It's right before the actual.
Okay, I feel like that would be pretty common.
It's after they run the trailers. Which, by the way, AMC shows 15 to 20 minutes for the trailers. So and then they have their little pre-show thing that tells you to turn your phones off. Same thing with like
the same thing with
they
us.
all have it. And I don't want to say that every theater is like that in LA. There's some nice ones that don't do this, that don't like have that problem. But there's certain types of movies. Horror movies are really bad at night at certain theaters where it's usually a younger crowd and they're louder and they don't really care. They're on their phones. Like it could be rough. And like a lot of people are like blaming all of these collective things on why they don't want to go to the movies. I think that's
completely fair. If people were acting that way when I was at the theater and I was at a full theater every time I went, that would undeniably boil my blood. Luckily, I just go see a movie where 10 audience members is considered packed.
Yeah. And I think 2024 box office right now is significantly behind last year. And that has a lot to do with the strike, the strike schedule too, kind of fucked everything up.
Yeah.
And we can't just rely on like a Deadpool and Wolverine to save it. Like, and I also rely on like, well, next year all these other movies come out. Like you have to, there's other little things that need to be fixed. And I think the big one is they really need to extend that window from theatrical to digital release. Like 2 to 3 weeks is way too fast. I don't care how hard your movie flopped. We can still wait for it to come out a couple months before you put it out to be watched at home.
Exactly, because it'll have ramifications beyond just that one movie and its theatrical window. Like that will train audience members that are prefer to watch at home to like rely on other movies to do the same in the future. And I think that'll influence maybe other movies that kind of follow that similar schedule, especially if they start seeing better returns on the at-home numbers than they do at the box office. So it would be nice to see that become an industry standard in the few years. I feel like we're in an experimental time with video on demand in relation to like, its box office window. So maybe this will all just get ironed out in the next couple of years, but it's still, like I said, a very novel sort of thing for the industry to have to balance. So who knows what the future is going to look like. I agree though. It's absolutely eating into box office performances, and it's annoying to see, and it's going to affect the kind of movies that we get to see going forward.
It's going to be all proven IP sequels, reboots,
which it already feels like it is. Like, man, I can't imagine it getting worse.
Yeah. Well, hopefully everyone has a good theatrical experience with Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga. Tracking at $50 million opening weekend right now. Mad Max Fury Road opened to $45.4 million. And it grossed $154 million domestic and $380 million worldwide on a $150 million budget. I didn't realize it was that much money.
Okay.
Crazy. That's the only comparison I got. I think it's a pretty good comparison. I think
definitely.
I think tracking's pretty on the money, but I don't know. Where do you want to go first, or do you want to?
What'd you say tracking is? I think I missed that part.
50 million.
Oh,
so a little bit more. So a little bit more than what Fury Road opened to. Fury Road opened at 45. Yeah.
I guess that makes sense considering it had been a much larger gap in between Mad Max movies by the time Fury Road came out. Something like, I don't know, like 25, 30 years. I can't believe it's already been 9 though since that. That is absolutely bonkers to me. So so tracking at 50, I like this. I think this will be like maybe the unofficial kickstart to the summer blockbuster season. I know we're kind of into it right now, but it definitely wasn't the fall guy with that dismal opening.
27 million. Oh.
Yeah. So I want to go above. I have high ambitions for this movie, and I'm very excited to see it. I think that bias is probably going to play into my answer, but I'm going to go above tracking at a nice 55, and I really hope it even passes that. I'll be seeing this probably not opening night, but Sunday. I think I'm going to be able to see this. So hopefully by the next Monday when we're talking, we'll both have seen this.
Yeah.
What do you think?
And I will have rewatched Fury Road by that point.
Right. So will I. So we might be able to just talk about both of them.
I am aware that it's a long movie too, so I'm trying to factor that in as well. I think it's like 2.5 hours, or maybe a little bit less.
Okay. That is slowly becoming the norm.
Yeah, it is.
228.
All right, I'm gonna go with 52. I'll be happy if it goes higher than that though.
For sure. I mean, seems like we both are anticipating a good box office performance from this one. So, Nathan Jones is in this too. I know we were just talking about him when we were talking about Troy. I didn't realize that he's in this. I've just seen that. So that's awesome. I'm very excited for this. I can't wait to see what you think about Fury Road.
I know it's gonna be I haven't watched it since it came out, so hopefully I feel the same enthusiasm as everyone else. And I used to feel like I was left out of the movement.
Well, don't hold back. I want to hear your honest opinion about it. I'm very excited. This looks like it'll be kind of in the same vein, but I wouldn't be surprised if Fury Road is kind of like the crown jewel of these two. But it seems if it's even like half the movie Fury Road is, I'm going to be very happy. And it's still George Miller and great supporting cast behind him. So,
all right. Well, I think that This is a much lengthier news episode than we've done in recently, but like
Right.
this was bound to happen with everything that was coming out. So thank you guys for still listening to this one. But you guys like when we cover news, so that's why I'm told that you like when we do it. So yeah, we didn't want to miss out on anything. So there you go.
Yeah,
they'll be shorter next week.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's been a dense episode, but packed full of actual news and a lot of stuff to comment on. So that is worthwhile. And it's been a couple of weeks. That might kind of be a trend going forward. We'll try and get news out every week, especially when there's like lengthy news weeks. But like we do got a lot of anniversaries to juggle too, and sometimes it just makes more sense to do 2 in one day. But thanks again, guys, like Gaia said, for hanging in there. I know it's been a long episode. We appreciate you guys coming back week after week and checking us out. This has been episode 173 of Back to the Blockbuster, purely news today. But we still got one more anniversary episode, and it's a listener's pick for the month of May, and that we are doing next week. It's going to be The Mummy from 1999. Super pumped to cover that. And of course, we'll have some more news too in the coming weeks, and an exciting new episode and a new segment for the show that we are excited to release here too. So more on that later. Check the socials for a little tease of what that is to come. I'm sure you guys will eat that up. And without further ado, guys, again, thanks for listening to us. Check us out anywhere you guys get your podcasts, and wherever you guys are active on social media, you can find us there at the handle at Back to the Blockbuster. Gaius, as always, thank you for the stimulating conversation and the breakdown of industry news. Can't wait to do it again next week. And guys, we'll see you on the next episode as well. You guys take care of yourselves.
Peace out, guys.